Aloha everyone, I'm Jay Dreamers and welcome to Plasma Apocalypse Thursday. This is the day of the week that we talk about the plasma apocalypse. Now I just want to throw this out there to start. If you have no idea or you know very little about the plasma apocalypse, I did make a short breadcrumb video. My breadcrumb videos, those are like the Cliff's Notes, because my videos can be like an hour or two long. So if you just want something that's short and direct and gets right to the point, as to what is all involved with the plasma apocalypse, then just go click on my plasma apocalypse playlist and click on the breadcrumb video. And that breaks it down in about 7 minutes. And I try to hit as many of the points as I could, at least the ones that I've already covered. So with that being said, what's up everybody in the chat? J Star Peace, Ted Ozzy, Unlearn the System. I just wanted to make sure I got everything going here. Looks like I do. All right, so today we're talking about the end of the world. That's great. It starts with an earthquake, birds, snakes. I can't sing. I'm sorry. That song always gets me hyped up though. Ever since I saw it at the end of Independence Day. When Independence Day first came out, it was like when stadium seating just was a big deal, and they had the surround sound and all this stuff. And at the end, man, they played that REM song, and it's like, and everybody got up and clapped. I've never been at a movie where people clapped at the end of the movie, but that was definitely one of them. And man, it was a great experience. Anyhow, we're talking about the end of the world. Here's the thing. If you're new to my channel, if you're just watching for the first time, I don't talk about the end of the world like doom and gloom, like, oh, this is such a bad thing, or that you need to repent, or, any type of negativity. I just address it as a fact of life, as I have researched it, and as I have come across it across many, many years, at least a couple decades of my own personal studies. And this is called eschatology. Eschatology means the study of the last things, or the study of the end of the world, basically. The very last things that we experience. That's called eschatology. So right now, what I'm going to be doing is just kind of going over Wikipedia, and I just typed in eschatology here on Wikipedia, and we're going to check this out. Why do I want to check this out? Because there are a lot of people out there that just, if you try to talk about the cyclical ending of our world, that has been recorded many times, or even if you don't talk about that, if you're just like, hey, what do you think about the apocalypse coming, or do you think the end is near, or whatnot? Some people are just like, the world's never going to end, like thinking, yes, like the earth might remain, but life as we know it here in this world changes cyclically all the time. But a lot of people are just not really into that. Maybe they haven't studied it. Maybe it's not something that is their cup of tea. It's totally okay. It's totally fine. It's not gonna play an important factor. Everyone walks their own path. But it does blow my mind. It does blow my mind that a lot of people out there are simply clueless as to how our world goes through these occasional and cyclical resets. Our world gets reset, and I mean our world, like the human way of life. I don't mean the actual earth itself, although the earth does go through earth changes, right? Periodically from time to time. Yeah, there's little changes over time, but every once in a while, there's a massive, huge, cataclysmic change that changes what our world looks like, and it definitely changes all life on earth as we know it. So in that essence, it is the end of the world. But I almost titled this video The Beginning of the World because the end of the world is also the very beginning of the world. All of the creation stories across all of the religions and ancient writings, they all talk about basically an end of the world, or this world as we know it coming to an end, and a creation time. A time where our world was a garden paradise and everything was much better back then. So that's the same event, okay? The creation event and the end of the world happen at the exact same time. Our world, this world that we're used to, comes to an end, and then we step into a new age. That's where all this new age stuff comes from. It's not about just, being a hippie and good vibes and just feeling good and never, you know what I mean? It's not about that. Like, The new age is literally a new age. We're going to start marking time according to this event that happens in order to recreate or reshape or terraform or however you want to say it, our world. It's the creation event, and it will be the marker for how we keep track of time. We'll say from this point forward, basically, because that was a significant event. It brings us into a new age, a new era, a new epic in the story of our lives here in our world. Unlearn the System is in the chat and says, J-Dreamers, aloha! I was thinking about all these hero movies and how they have a big epic fight. It made me think that the UN have been trained to fight Phanazoids. Very interesting thought. Could be. It very well could be. There will be survivors. There are always survivors during these cyclical resets. I'm going to be honest, a lot of people tend to die during these things, okay? Or I don't believe in death, so I say a lot of people's lives are reset at this time, okay? But those who survive, some of them may wake up with amnesia because I believe the world will experience worldwide amnesia, but some pockets of people will not have that amnesia, and they'll remember all of the things like the Phantazoids, and a lot of agencies and different people are preparing for this event, and so they keep these things in mind. And if you don't know about the Phantazoids, just got to go check it out. It's on my playlist. All right, so let's see who else is in the chat here. Ted Ozzy, hey, what's up, Ted Ozzy? Tony Peterson, blessings to all. Semyaza says, J Dreamers, amazes me as well that they do not put these signed together with all that be presented to us in the story form. They're entertained, amused by all this, putting 2 and 2 together. What's up? Yes, NASA doomsday preppers. Exactly. All right, so let's check out eschatology. This is the study of the end of the world. This is a legitimate study, and I can't say for sure, but it makes sense to me that there's probably classes out there, like even college courses, from academia that go over studying the cyclical end of the world. They won't, I don't believe that they would teach it like, hey, get ready because the world's going to end, just like we're teaching you. See, a lot of times in these classes, they teach you, well, this is what the ancients thought. This is what all of these ancient cultures thought, right? And they spin it like the ancient cultures were stupid. And they were telling things metaphorically when it was a literal changing of the world. You know what I mean? Either that or it was some sort of myth or a legend or old wives' tale or something like that. The world ending is not an old wives' tale. It's nothing to be dismissed. It's not because it's actually intelligent to look into the cyclical reset of the world we live on. Because I also believe all the other worlds go through their own cyclical resets. Everything in life goes according to these universal laws, right? There's a law of cycles. Everything goes in cycles. Even the earth goes in cycles, just like the waves that come in and then they roll back out. Or you breathing in, out. The earth does the same exact thing, and it goes through these cycles. So eschatology is just simply looking into and studying the end of the world. So this says eschatology is a part of theology. Theology means the study of God, right? Okay. It's a part of theology, yes, but it's a part of everything, okay? Because it's a part of our existence. It's a part of our story. It transcends the boundaries. Jordan, hey, what's up, Jordan? Jordan Truitt just became a member of the Good Vibe Tribe. Welcome, Jordan. Eschatology transcends the boundaries of religion. Plain and simple. Like, yes, religion is very much involved in eschatology because religion tends to be a collection of ancient writings that were preserved, unlike many of the other important documents that we all know have been burned at the great libraries and stolen and kept into the vaults of the Vatican and other places, right? Let's read on. Eschatology is a part of theology concerned with the final events of history or the ultimate destiny of humanity. Let me back that up just a second here. It's not the final events, as if there's nothing afterwards. See, the problem is a lot of people out there, when they hear the end of the world, right? They think they literally picture. I was looking for a thumbnail on Google, right? And I type in end of the world. Half the pictures are planet Earth blowing up. Like, that's it. It's all gone. End game. It's all erased. Nothing happens after that. Basically, everything just turns black and we all disappear. And that's it, right? That's not the end of the world. When we talk about the end of the world, we're talking about the end of this era, the end of this epic, the end of life as we know it. Everything will be changed, but everything will continue. Everything will go on. Everything will continue to grow. So it's not the ultimate final end and nothing happens afterward. It's a continuation, right? This concept is commonly referred to as the end of the world or end times. Hey, you know what? I didn't give Jordan some positive emojis. Let me hook him up. Where is it? Here we go. All right. I like to stop for just a second when people join and give them a star. Welcome at... Oh, wow. My computer's going really slow. Hey, let me know if there's any problems with the video, please. We might be okay, but I did want to stop real quick and welcome Jordan personally. Oh, yeah, it looks good. It says the stream health is good. All right, so we're talking about eschatology. Let's go ahead and go back to Wikipedia. The word arises. Can you guys see that okay? Is that okay, or should I make it bigger? Let me know. I'll just continue reading. Hey, by the way, if you want to get my attention in the chat, type in @JDreamers. That way I'll see it a little better. Actually, let me pop out the chat real quick. All right, I'm just going to pop out the chat real quick. There we go. See, when I pop out the chat, I have a chat in my little software program, but it doesn't highlight my name. So I just popped out the chat. There we go. See, Samyaza highlighted my name. It says @JDreamers. You're good. The stream is fine. Thanks a lot, Samyaza. Okay, so let's get back to this here. Let's see, where were we? This concept is commonly referred to as the end of the world or end times, right? I like end times better because it's the end of these times that we're in right now. It's going to be the end of this time, basically, and we will trip into a new time. We will step into a new time, basically. The word arises, and also time's going to be recorded differently, like time itself. I'm pretty sure we're not going to experience the whole 60 seconds is 1 minute and 60 minutes is 1 hour. I'm pretty sure time's going to act a little funny when it comes back around, but that's just something I'm working on right now. All right, let's see. Eschatology. Let's keep reading. The word arises from the Greek eschatos, meaning last, and logi, meaning the study of. The first appearance in the English, blah, blah, blah. Let's just skip all that boring stuff. Let's see here. In the context of mysticism. Ooh. Now, let me tell you something. Mysticism is simply studying secrets. It's studying things that most people don't know. I don't like the stigma with the word mysticism. I don't like the stigma that a lot of these words have, but mysticism is a good thing. It's an awesome thing. You see, the problem is that the people are usually afraid of what they don't understand or what they don't know or what they don't resonate with, right? They just become afraid. It's a part of their training here on Earth. You know, it's part of how we've been conditioned growing up. But mysticism is an honor. It's an honorable research. At least that's my opinion on it because I'm a mystic and that's what I do. In the context of mysticism, the term refers metaphorically to the end of ordinary reality, there we go, and to reunion with the divine. Okay. Many religions treat eschatology. Hold on. Many religions treat eschatology as a future event prophesied in sacred text or in folklore. Well, yeah, that's an absolute fact. The end of the world has been prophesied many times over. You know why? Because the world has ended many times over. So you know how these prophets can predict that it's going to happen again? Because it keeps happening, right? If it just happened one time, you know, like that would be different. but it happens a bunch. And that's the cyclical nature of our world. That's why these prophets of old can easily look into the future just by knowing what has happened in the past, because time loops. Everything repeats itself, basically. We just go into these loops. All right, so let's continue on. Most modern eschatology and apocalypticism, both religious and secular, involve the violent disruption or destruction of the world, whereas Christian and Jewish eschatologies view the end times as the consummation or perfection of God's creation of the world, albeit with violent overtures such as the Great Tribulation. Let me tell you that one. Hey, Tiffany donated. Tiffany Lee says, Thursdays are my favorite. Thank you for all that you do at J-Dreamers. Hey, thanks, Tiffany. You're a sweetheart. I appreciate it. All right, so let me reword this in my own speak, okay? Because that was a lot of mumbo-jumbo, basically. All right, most modern eschatology and apocalypticism, both religious and secular, so basically everyone that studies the end of the world, involve the violent disruption. That means that there's some sort of an apocalyptic scenario, like huge earthquakes and nature's going out of control, and there's a lot of destruction, basically, or destruction of the world. It's not the complete destruction of the world. That's where a lot of people get it wrong, in my opinion, right? I mean, they're free to think that. However, the world itself is not going to blow up, okay? A planet is not, according to my research, there's not going to be a planet like Nibiru or something crashing into us, like in that movie Melancholia, you know, where it's just, and the earth just gets engulfed in flames and stuff. Speaking of engulfed in flames, the rest of this says, whereas the Christian and Jewish eschatologies, all that means is according to the Bible or according to the Torah or according to the, Jewish and Christian writings, view the end times as the consummation. Let's stop. To consume, basically, right? Means the world gets eaten up. Eaten up by what? Or perfection of God's creation of the world. Let's stop right there. This word right here, or, should be and, in my humble opinion, okay? Because it's not either or. And that's one of the problems that we have as a people together, is we're so either or, with the team mentality. It's this or it's that, I have found quite often both can be reconciled. Both can live together in harmony because there are bits of truth and everyone has a little piece of it, right? Thanks again, Tiffany Lee. That was awesome. All right, let's see here. Where was I? Oh, yeah, the word or should be and. Or perfection of God's creation of the world. So that's just the creation event. That's all that is, right? The creation events happen. The end of the world comes either by fire or by water, typically, and it kind of destroys everything. But then, due to what has just happened, that the elements that had just destroyed much of the world or ruined it or changed it, however, it actually adds to the growth of the world, and it thrusts us right back into a Garden of Eden paradise type of Elysian fields, however you want to see it, type of existence, albeit with violent overtures. Yes, of course, such as the Great Tribulation. The Great Tribulation, that's in reference to the book of Revelation. Towards the end, right? It's in like 3 different sections. The end of the world is in 3 different sections in the book of Revelations, basically, or Revelation. The Great Tribulation is the last 3.5 years before the world actually ends. If you look at it from Norse eschatology, right, or Scandinavian, or some of the northern European countries, with their ancient writings, like the Poetic Edda or the Prose Edda, things like that, they talk about Fimbulvinter, which is a 3-year-long winter period where the seasons actually go out of whack. Right? And they're like, it gets unusually cold for 3 long years. It's 3 long years of winter. It's like winter every year grows longer and gets longer and longer. I've noticed that here in Colorado. I've noticed like, hey, winter started back in, I don't know, we'll say November. And then it's like still snowing in June. Okay. Like it's still cold all the way out to like close to June. At least it was the last couple of years. Excuse me. I am terribly sorry about that. I don't like coughing into the microphone. For example, according to some ancient Hebrew worldviews, reality unfolds. Can you guys see that? Yeah, you can. Sort of. Let me bring this down a little bit. There we go. Reality unfolds along a linear path, which I would actually disagree with. I think it's a circular path or a spherical path if you can look at it that way. Or rather, a spiral path. Actually, I do like the spiral path one, with cyclical components that nonetheless have a linear trajectory. All that means in regular people talk is that it's spinning, but it's continuing forward, right? It's a cycle, but it's spiraling and it's continuing to go in one direction, essentially. Let's see. The world began with God and is ultimately headed toward God's final goal for creation, the world to come. And that would be like, according to, biblical scholars and stuff. Eschatologies, studies of the end, vary as to their degree of optimism or pessimism about the future. In some eschatologies, conditions are better for some and worse for others. For example, heaven or hell. They also vary as to time frames. Groups claiming imminent eschatology are referred to as doomsday cults. Right? That's one of their favorite things to call us, right? You're a doomsday person. You're doom and gloom. They just put the word doom in there as if we're being negative by trying to help you out, right? Like, we're just focused on bad things happening to the world. No, we're not. We're being real that, the world has changed. It's not bad at all. The world needs to change. We all need to change. Change is a good thing, right? And the world needs to breathe. It needs to die and be born again and give birth and all of the regular parts of life. So personally, I don't try to take a side on it. I don't say it's good or it's bad. I do have my own preference. I do have my own, thoughts about it, which are, I think it's cool. I like it. I like being I like being alive right now because I feel like it's right around the corner and I'm going to witness it. I'm going to experience it. And that for me is quite an honor to be here at this time. Be able to watch in all of its glory as the greatest part, the culmination of all events unfolds before me. Let's see here. All right, so let's check out some of the various beliefs here in eschatology. We're going to basically look at some different religions. It's not limited to religion. The end of the world is absolutely not limited to religion. Even science, or I shouldn't say science, academia teaches about how eventually our world will be engulfed by the flames of the sun and that it will catch fire, or these other possibilities, of planets crashing into it or whatever. Ultimately, even academia agrees the world's not going to be around forever. The life as we know it now will not always be the same. We all kind of understand this, but not everybody wants to talk about it. I say, let's talk about it. Let's put it out there. Let's put all the cards out there. I keep bumping into Mike or Cam. Let's put all our cards on the table. Let's talk about the end of the world. It happens. That's why I'm doing this video right now. Let's check out Baha'i. I think that's how you say that. It's a religion. In Baha'i belief, creation has neither a beginning nor an end. Hold on, let me go down here a little bit so you can see it better. There we go. Let's bring it up a little bit. That looks good. All right, in Baha'i belief, creation has neither a beginning nor an end. I like that belief. I really do. Because ultimately, there's various ways to look at our reality. One of those ways to look at our reality is what they call simulation theory, or the mind of God, or the law of mind, literally. So it's like, it's basically all of our existence is a thought. All of our existence is a dream. Where does a dream begin? Where does a dream end? They don't typically have beginnings or ends, and that's kind of what the world is like. In Baha'i belief, creation has neither a beginning nor an end. Instead, the eschatology of other religions is viewed as symbolic. In Baha'i belief, human time is marked by a series of progressive revelations in which successive messengers or prophets from God. Period. I don't know why is there period right there. The coming of each of these messengers is seen as the day of judgment to the adherents of the previous religion, who may choose to accept the new messenger and enter the heaven of belief, or denounce the new messenger and enter the hell of denial. So let's stop right there. I want to talk about messengers of God or prophets, things like that. Here's what I believe happens, okay? As the time gets close to the end, the energy in our world starts to ramp up. Okay, and it has a lot to do with electromagnetics. It has a lot to do with electricity and how the charge is starting to really ramp up, and it's starting to strengthen to its maximum point before it literally flashes like a light bulb that's popping out. Like when you turn on a light, it gets super bright before it pops and it goes out. That's kind of how like the energy is in our world just before the end. A few years before the end, it depends on how you want to look at it, but a handful of years before this event happens, in order to change our world, all of the energy starts to build up and includes the coming energy. Okay, so for example, right now we have male energy, and the coming energy that is starting to try to reach down into this world is the female energy, right? And what happens is that energy is something that affects all of us. Most of the time, we don't realize it. Most of the time, we don't even think about it, and most people don't know it. But that world energy is affecting us. It is strongly suggesting certain things to us, and it affects our vibration because we're inside of that energy. Yes, we have our own vibrations, but the world vibration, which right now is mostly dominantly male, a male energy, right? It's going to ramp itself up. So the prophets or the gifted or the seers or the awakened or however you want to call it, right? They're the ones that have their energy resonates with the coming energy, not the old energy. Their energy resonates with the energy that is on its way and that is actually invisibly reaching down to try to start preparing the way, so to speak, right? As a voice calling in the wilderness, to quote a popular book. So what happens is those people, they basically open up their energy to receive the female energy, or if it's the male energy on its way in, they'll receive the male energy, and they're able to get messages in the form of feelings and pictures, or sometimes it's just stuff you can't quite you can't put words to it, but you just feel it, it. It's like it's deep inside of you, and that's how that particular energy works. All right, let's keep reading. All right, let's see here. In Baha'i belief, the coming Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith, signals the fulfillment of the previous eschatological expectations of Islam, Christianity, and other major religions. All of these religions have their forerunners, these prophets that seem to rise up out of nowhere right towards the end. A lot of stuff happens towards the end. It's not just many people dream dreams and see visions and are able to prophesy or predict the future, or some people just feel it. As a matter of fact, if you watch my video about Generation Z, I personally believe all of Generation Z that is alive right now, the reason that they have sort of this melancholy kind of humor about death and things like that, why they're obsessed with it in general, right, is because they're the last generation. Like, they're the ones, that entire generation just subconsciously knows that the world is coming to an end, and some of them may not make it. So they kind of all share this sort of attitude about life. I don't know how to describe it really, but if you know about Generation Z, you know what I'm talking about. All right, let's look at Buddhism, Buddhist eschatology. Let's go ahead and click on that. There are two major points of Buddhist eschatology: the appearance of Maitreya and the Sermon of the Seven Sons. Maitreya and the Sermon of the Seven Sons. Let's check that out. Maitreya. I don't know why, I like to say that word for some reason. I'm just checking to see if you guys can see what I'm seeing, which it looks like you can. All right, let's read about Maitreya. Buddha described his teachings disappearing 5,000 years from his passing, right? corresponding approximately to the year 4600 CE. At this time, knowledge of Dharma will be lost as well. So let me tell you something real quick. I say let me tell you something a lot. I'm sorry about that. I don't mean to like sound pushy or anything. I was listening to my own video earlier. That's why I'm like, dang, I said let me tell you something like 8 times. All right, so basically these are Buddhists' signs of the end of the world, right? And one of those signs would be that the teachings of Buddha would be forgotten. You know, and you could pretty much replace the word Buddha or the name Buddha with any of the great religious teachers. Their teachings will all have been forgotten. People will be so distracted with the way that the present life is that they will never look back and they will never consider the ancient teachings, right? The cyclical, reoccurring cataclysms that the world goes through is one of those teachings. Also, and more importantly, the teachings about love, the teachings about oneness and kindness. And that's why you always see this sort of hippie new age mentality rise up right before the end of the world comes, or the beginning of the world, because that's the energy that is touching down, okay? And people start to return to that energy that used to be taught a long time ago. The last of his relics will be gathered in Bodh Gaya and cremated. There will be a new era in which the next Buddha Maitreya will appear, but it will be preceded by the degeneration of human society. That's always how it is. Things start off great. People in general have a high energy. They have a very loving energy. When we get to like the ultimate paradise point in our cyclical time, basically, right? But it starts to fall apart. That pendulum reaches its highest point, and then it starts to sway back down. When it starts to go down, everything starts to go down, okay? Like, all the people start to kind of fall apart until we hit rock bottom on the pendulum, which is kind of close to where we are now. And then it'll pick back up, and it'll return us to paradise. Not just a physical paradise, but the heaven that exists inside of us. Peace, inner peace, and true happiness. And that's why you get these new age hippie kind of speak towards the end, because people are picking up on where we're headed, right? And it will happen. Degeneration of the human society. This will be a period of greed, lust, poverty, ill will, violence, murder, impiety, physical weakness, sexual depravity, and societal collapse. And even the Buddha himself will be forgotten. Right? Now, this is in general. Okay, it's not complete across the board. 100% of all people in the world will forget about Buddha. This is saying, in general, the world pretty much forgot the ancient teachings. You know what I mean? All right, so let's see. Let me keep going forward. This will be followed by a new golden age. That's the return to utopia. The earliest mention of Maitreya is in the Kakavati Sutta in well, I'm just going to skip that part right there. At that period, hold on, let me make sure you guys can see this. Let's scooch it over a little tiny bit here. Where did I put it? There it is. Cool. Boom. All right, let's continue on. At that period, brethren, there will arise in the world an exalted one named Maitreya, fully awakened, abounding in wisdom and goodness, happy, with knowledge of the worlds, plural, worlds, right? Unsurpassed as a guide to mortals, willing to be led, a teacher for gods and men, an exalted one, a Buddha, even as I am now. He by himself will thoroughly know and see, as it were, face to face, this universe with its worlds of the spirits, its Brahmas, its Maras, and the world of recluses and Brahmins, and princes and peoples, even as I now, by myself, thoroughly know and see them. Maitreya Buddha is then foretold. I'm trying to figure out a good place to put this so you guys can see it. I'll just keep reading it. Maitreya Buddha is foretold to be born in the city of Ketumati in present-day Benares. Okay, well, perhaps. We're going to skip that part. Let's see. In Mahayana Buddhism, Maitreya will attain Bodhi in 7 days, the minimum period by virtue of his many lives of preparation. Once Buddha, he will rule over the Ketumani Ketumati, pure land, an earthly paradise sometimes associated with the Indian city of Varanasi or Banaras in Uttar Pradesh. In that particular form of Buddhism, let's see. I'm sorry, I'm going to skip that part. Trying to get to like the core of all of this. The Lord replied, Maitreya, the best of men will leave this. Okay, so basically it's like Jesus, okay? You always have a Jesus type of figure that appears during this time who is the culmination of the returning energy, basically, whether it be a female energy or a male energy. You always have someone who comes that represents the fullness of that particular energy. And that's what they're talking about with Maitreya. Now, check this out. I want to read the Sermon of the Seven Sons because this is really interesting. Let me make sure you guys can see this one. Yeah, you can. Okay, cool. All right. In the Satta Suriya Sutta, Sermon of the Seven Sons, in the Anguttara Nikaya of the Pali Canon, the Buddha describes the ultimate fate of the world in an apocalypse that will be characterized by the consequent appearance of seven suns in the sky. If you guys are Star Trek fans, okay, the new Star Trek Discovery actually has this Sermon of the Seven Sons apocalypse scenario, except it's like held out in space or whatever. But it's really interesting. I definitely recommend checking out that particular series. Each of these seven suns causing progressive ruin until the earth is destroyed. Now, if you're a Bible person, this is God pouring out his seven vials, or you know what I mean? It's all the same across the board because it's all the same story being retold. All things are impermanent. All aspects of existence are unstable and non-eternal. Beings will become so weary and disgusted with the constituent things that they will seek emancipation from them more quickly. There will come a season, O monks, when after hundreds of thousands of years, rains will cease. Look at that. Rains will cease. That's actually a huge part of it. Physically, actually, there will be a period in which there won't be any more rain. Okay? And there's good reasons for that. I've kind of covered, and I'll cover it again in the future. All seedlings, all vegetation, all plants, grasses, and trees will dry up and cease to be. There comes another season after a great lapse of time when a second sun will appear. Now all brooks and ponds will dry up and vanish and cease to be. This is also actually echoed in the book of Revelation as well. Towards the end, the revelator, John, the one who's having the vision basically, he looks out at the world, at the post-apocalyptic world, and he's like, the oceans are gone, right? Like, where are all of the oceans? And the sun is gone, but it's still bright. How is this possible, right? It's kind of what it's talking about. All right, the canon goes on to describe the progressive destruction of each sun. A third sun will dry the mighty Ganges and the other great rivers. A fourth will cause the great lakes to evaporate, and a fifth will dry the oceans. Finally, the final suns will appear. Let's read about the final suns. Again, after a vast period of time, a sixth sun will appear, and it will bake the earth, even as a pot is baked by a potter. All the mountains will reek and send up clouds of smoke. After another great interval, a seventh sun will appear, and the earth will blaze with fire. I feel like I should say this in my preacher voice. And the earth will blaze with fire. I don't know. I can't do it. I call it the ghost voice because it sounds like, ooh, you know what I mean? Until it becomes one mass of flame. The mountains will be consumed. A spark will be carried on the wind and go to the worlds of God. Okay, basically what this is talking about is the plasma, okay? The smokeless fire, the pillars of fire of God that come down from the heavens, etc. That's all the plasma that is outside of our world right now, entering in through an opening in the sky during this cyclical event. So it's just using poetic language. It's just describing it in a different way, right? But this is the flames that it's talking about. That's why the mountains will be consumed, you know? It's not like they just spontaneously combust, right? I mean, the fire comes from somewhere. If you're a religious person, you'll say the fire comes from heaven, which is interesting. Like, you don't typically associate fire with heaven, right? It's usually the other place. But yeah, the whole world basically catches fire. And when I say the whole world, I mean most of the world, much of the world, I should say. Not all of the world. Of course, there's going to be places where there isn't fire, but it's going to be so much fire from the plasma that comes down and the electricity in the air. Lots of stuff, especially stuff that we have created, will catch on fire, including the things that burn in nature as well. But don't worry, because even after a forest fire, the forest regrows, doesn't it? Of course it does. So it's not like it's going to destroy everything completely, right? The mountains will be consumed. A spark will be carried on the wind. Now it says spark. That's plasma or electromagnetics or electricity, okay? A spark will be carried on the wind and go to the worlds of God. That would be heaven or up there in the sky. Thus, monks, all things will burn, perish, and exist no more, except those who have seen the path. Okay, so all things will burn and exist no more in their old state. But just like the phoenix, new life will rise up out of those ashes. And also, he says, except those who have seen the path. That's actually a pretty important part, and I do want to point that out. So, he's talking about the plasma apocalypse, and he's saying there will be survivors, is what he's saying. And certain people will not perish because they have seen the path. That's just a poetic way of saying those who are enlightened, who have looked down inside of themselves, found their inner treasure, and they have a vibration that matches the coming vibration or a neutral vibration as well, right? What's happening is that the world is being cleansed of the old vibration, of the old ways. So anyone that's stuck in those old ways is probably going to get caught up in the apocalypse. Those people who are actively changing themselves to anticipate a coming frequency change, and that's why that's happening. I believe personally that many of those people, if not all of those people, will most likely survive the plasma coming after them and trying to get them. Okay, I'm just using, simple language, right? That does not mean that accidents don't happen. So be careful. Even if you are one of those people, be wise, okay? Don't tempt fate, basically. All right, so the sermon completes with the planet engulfed by a vast inferno, right? This is fire. Like I said, one of the apocalypses is by fire. The other one is by water. There was a prophecy a long time ago where God had basically revealed to some prophets that the world would end by fire and by water. But God didn't say which one was which one was coming, okay? And so these wise men took the world's writings and the world's knowledge, and they built 2 libraries. I'll call it a library, okay? 2 places to store this information. One was made out of stone, so that if it came by fire, the stone would bake in the fire and the information would be preserved. If it came by water, I believe it was rock or something. I can't remember, honestly. But whatever survives water. No, clay. One was written on clay, so that if it was burned by the fire, the clay would simply bake. The other one was stone, so that if it came by water, the stone would continue to keep the information. And some people think that the pyramids are one of those markers. The canon goes on to describe the progressive destruction of each sun. A third sun, I think we already read that, didn't we? Yes, we did. All right, so let's get out of Buddhism and let's check out some other stuff here. I like what I'm seeing in the chat. All right, let's see here. Religion, Baha'i. So we went over Baha'i. We went over Buddhism. Let's check out Christianity, okay? Basically, if you're a religious person at all, like your religion in its essence says you need to study the end of the world. It is of vast importance, right? Now, the main thing is not the end of the physical world, but the end of your physical old mental self, the end of your old spirit, your old life. That's the true teaching behind it. The rest of the world is just reflecting that. That's all that's happening there. That's why it's most important to go inward instead of focusing on the outward. If you look inside, you can already know what's going to happen outside because it starts inside. The world reflects you, basically. All right, let's check out Christianity. Christian eschatology is the study concerned with the ultimate destiny of the individual soul and the entire created order, based primarily upon biblical texts within the Old and New Testament. Now, you know what? Before we do that, let me just do a quick little search here. Let's type in Book of Peter, end of the world. Can't remember which book it is. I think it's like 3rd Peter, I want to say. Apocalypse of Peter? I don't know if that's it. Probably. I don't know if that's it. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do this. Let's go to, what's a good Bible one? Bible Hub. Boom. Let's go to Bible Hub. All right, so we're going to check out Bible Hub real quick because I want to actually read you something from the book of Peter. Let's see. So many options. Let's just do the New King James Version there. And let's skip. How do we skip? Well, I'm just going to type in Peter, see what happens. Oh, there it is. It's at the top. I see it. Never mind. All right, so we're going to go all the way down here. It's in the New Testament. 2 Peter, that's probably what it is. So I'm going to click on this. This whole thing is pretty much about the end of the world. Now I'm going to read some relevant parts here. Nope, I don't think that's it. Let's try 1 Peter then. Oh, that's just chapter 1. Oh, never mind. Let's just keep going. Chapter 2. Here we go. So this is talking about false teachers and stuff. That's actually really good information, but that's not what I'm looking for. Here we go. The day of the Lord. Yes, the day of the Lord. There's different ways that people describe and put labels on the end of the world or the beginning of the world, right? On the cyclical apocalypse that I call the plasma apocalypse. People put different words on it. The day of the Lord is in the Bible like so many different times. Man, it talks about the day of the Lord a lot. You know why? Because it's really important. All right, so let's check out the day of the Lord. That is the end of time, basically. But the day of the Lord will come. Actually, wait, let's go back a little bit. God's promise is not slack. Now, what he's going to talk about right here real quick. Let me make this big so you guys can see it, because otherwise there's no point in having it on the screen. How's that look? A little better, right? Tiny bit better. I could probably make it even bigger than that. Sorry, just one uno momento. Just trying to make it big so people can read along here. Okay, cool. God's promise is not slack. I'm going to go ahead and read this now. Beloved, I now write to you this second epistle, which means letter, in both of which I stir up your pure minds by the way of a reminder, that you may be mindful of the words which were spoken before by the holy prophets, and of the commandment of us, the apostles of the Lord and Savior, knowing this first, that scoffers will come. Okay, let me paraphrase what he just said. Basically, what he just said is, hey, guys, you need to remember the old teachings about the end of the world. That's essentially what he said in a nutshell. David, hey, just donated $10 and said, sending good vibes. Thank you, David. I appreciate you, man. All right. I'm also going to go back and thank everybody at the end, too. All right. So let's see here. This is the first thing he needs us to know. Scoffers will come in the last days. What does scoffer mean? It means people that don't believe, basically. Like when you talk about the end of the world, there's going to be a lot of scoffers. They're like, the world's not going to end. That's mumbo jumbo. Like, that's just fear porn, or however people say it. The world is going to end. It always ends. It's continuously ending and beginning all the time, right? But this guy, who was popular enough and his words echo throughout history because they were written and kept in the Bible, right? Says, you need to know this first. He's saying, be prepared. Not everybody. People are going to forget that this happens, basically. Scoffers will come in the last days, walking according to their own lusts, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. So let me paraphrase that. What he's saying is that in the end times, okay, close to when the world ends and begins again, a lot of the world's population are going to say, world's not going to end. I can look at my history lesson a couple hundred years back and I can see that everything's just the same as it's always been. The world's not going to end. Yes, it will end. Okay, there's going to be an end of the world, which is going to bring about a beginning of the world again. But this guy's saying that's what's going to happen. For this, they willfully forget. I like how he puts this. They will willfully forget. It means they choose not to remember. They choose not to study it. You know, they don't want to be eschatologists. They don't want to think about the world ending. It's just a bummer for them. So they choose not to focus on it. They are willfully forgetting about the cyclical end of the world. That by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of water and in the water, by which the world that then existed perished, being flooded with water. But the heavens and the earth, which are now preserved by the same word, are reserved for fire until the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. So let me go ahead and paraphrase that. Basically what that's saying is that they're going to forget that the world was flooded. They're going to forget all about it. It's not going to be taught, right? It may be alluded to, but the world will willfully forget. They will choose to not continue teaching about the cyclical ending of the world. Last time it came by water. The next time, as we're about to read, it will come by fire. But, beloved, do not forget this one thing, that with the Lord, one day is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as one day. The Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some count slackness, but is long-suffering towards us, not willing that any should perish, but all should come to repentance. Let me go ahead and paraphrase that one. All that means is that we are looking at time through a very limited and small lifespan. Okay, what do we live, like 80 years or something like that, right? We look back the past 80 years and then the 80 years before that and the 80 years before that, and we're like, the world's not going to end. Like, I can look back a few hundred years and we're good, right? And not only that, but collectively, humanity is basically saying, you know, all this talk about the end of the world, like we can look back a little bit and we can see the world has not ended. Just because it has not ended in our lifetime and there has not been an apocalypse in our lifetime doesn't mean it would be wise for us to say that it's not going to happen. Just because I haven't seen it means it's not going to happen. That's basically what this guy's saying. So yeah. The day of the Lord, let's check this out. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night. Let's stop right there. This event happens at night. Why does it happen at night? Because the sun goes out. Okay? Gets very, very dark in our world. If wherever you are, if it's daytime and the sun all of a sudden disappears, I suggest you kick into high gear right away. All right, let's read about this. The day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens, that's the sky, will pass away with a great noise. Let's stop right there. The sky is going to pass away, which means the sky that we look up and see, this black darkness. Let's say it's nighttime where you are, okay? You look up at the sky. Tonight, you can look up at the sky and it's blackish. Actually, it's dark blue is what it really is, okay? We look up and we see a couple of stars, little points of light. That's going to go away. The current heaven, the current space or sky that we look at right now that we see, that's going to go away. That's not going to continue be the way that the sky looks. The sky is going to drastically change. You're going to see other worlds. You're going to see all kinds of really interesting stuff when you look up after this happens. But it says that the heavens will pass away with a great noise. I also want to recommend that you get earplugs. I think it might be a good idea. It's not like you can always just wear earplugs, but if you see the sun go out, soon after that, the heavens will pass away with a great noise. It's going to be so loud, it's probably and possibly going to break eardrums. Okay? Very, very scary sound, loud, sudden, and I mean, so loud it vibrates. Like when you're at when you go to like a concert and you're standing right next to that speaker in that really crappy spot where it's just like boom, and you feel like that vibration throughout your body. That's probably what this is going to be like, this great noise. What's the great noise? Well, it's the world depressurizing. That's the great noise. The sky opens up right above the North Pole, and our world depressurizes. It's going to cause a lot of noise to begin with. And then after that, there's actually going to be the sound of silence for about half an hour. The elements will melt with fervent heat. Both the earth and the works that are in it will be burned up. The works that are in it are the things that humanity has introduced, essentially, right? Also parts of nature as well. But the earth is going to burn up. This is what he's talking about, the fires of God. Therefore, since all of these things will be dissolved, what manner of persons ought you to be in holy conduct and godliness, looking for and hastening the coming of the day of God, because of which the heavens will be dissolved, being on fire, and the elements will melt with fervent heat? So all he's saying right there is, we know this is going to happen. And if you would like to survive it, right? If you would like to make it past that point, start changing. Change and don't have any of that old negative energy. Be a godly person. Be a righteous person. Do right in your life. Stop doing bad. Stop doing evil. Stop harming. Stop being selfish. Stop listening to the shadow of fear like we talked about in the last Sylvan Linings episode. Don't listen to that shadow of fear. Walk in confidence. Walk tall in the direction of your goals. And be loving above all. Be loving. Consider others. Nevertheless, we, according to this promise, look for new heavens. Like I said, heavens equates to sky, basically, okay? You look up at the sky right now and we see the ceiling of our world. That's why we think that it's space that we're looking at, right? We look at it and we're actually looking beyond it. Like one of those pictures, those 3D pictures that, like, if you stare at it long enough, you're just staring at a piece of paper or a poster or something, right? That has these images on the poster, right? That's the same thing as looking up at the sky, and your eyes, your imagination kicks in, and you imagine that those stars of different brightness are actually different lengths and different distances away and whatnot, and it starts to pop out like a 3D picture, except you're looking into it instead of it coming out at you, right? That's how we view our sky today. And that's not how the sky is. That sky is just the ceiling of our world, and it's going to break. It's going to break apart, and it's going to reveal as the light turns around and illuminates out there. It's going to show you all of heaven in its glory. It's going to show you all of true space in all of its beautiful glory. And I'm pretty confident we're going to see that it's not black at all, and it's not empty at all. People will be amazed by what they see in the sky. All right, let's see here. Where were we? New heavens and a new earth in which righteousness dwells. There will be a new earth. The earth is going to be the same place. It's just going to be different. The earth itself is going to be terraformed. Oceans will be in different places, if they even exist at all anymore. Lakes will be transported to other places. There will be new valleys where there weren't any valleys. I mean, the whole face of the land is going to be different for the most part, right? Some things might still be the same, but a lot of things are going to be changing in our world and the way that our world looks and locations of different things. Okay, I think that was pretty much all I wanted to read from 2 Peter, because that was just like the sermon of the 7 sons that we read about in Buddhism, right? Let's go back over here. We're going to go back. Let's see. Let me scooch this over a bit here. Where we're going to read about Christian eschatology. This is one of my areas of expertise. Christian eschatology looks to the study to discuss matters such as death and the afterlife, heaven and hell, the second coming of Jesus, the resurrection of the dead, the rapture, the tribulation, millennialism, and the end of the world, the last judgment, and the new heaven and new earth in the world to come. What was that one I just clicked on there? I don't know what that was. Oh, wait, what was that? Jacob's Ladder. That's what I thought I saw, right? That's Jacob's Ladder. We talk about that too. That's just Project Blue Beam. That's the blue beam that shoots up out of the center of the world that gives life to the world. Eschatological, let's see, can you guys see that okay? Let me scooch it over a tiny bit more. Eschatological passages are found in many places in the Bible, both the Old Testament and New Testament. The entire Bible talks about the end of the world. Almost every single book in the Bible makes reference to the day of the Lord. or to the end of the world, okay? It's not just in like the book of Revelation and the book of Daniel. It's all over the place. Let's see here. Apocalyptic eschatology can be found notably in Isaiah 24 through 27, Isaiah 56 through 66, Joel, Zechariah 9:14, as well as closing chapters of Daniel and Ezekiel. If you have the eyes to see, you can find it everywhere because it makes reference to it. In the New Testament, applicable passages include Matthew 24, Mark 13, the parable of the sheep and goats in the book of Revelation, although Revelation often occupies a central place in Christian eschatology. The second coming of Christ is the central event in Christian eschatology. We sort of already went over that with the coming of Maitreya or the return of certain prophets of Allah or whatever it may be. It's all pretty much kind of similar. It's just that people have their own names and their own mascots and their own ideology of what these people or beings are going to look like or whatever it may be. The point is that there are godly men, righteous men, prophets who have access to certain information that most people in this energy today don't have access to. And they make a return before the end comes. And not only that, but after this event happens, we are thrust back. That pendulum is going upwards now. It's going to continue to swing upwards until it eventually hits its highest point, which will be paradise, right? It's not like the plasma apocalypse comes and then the 7 days of hell basically happen. And then the 8th day, all of a sudden, everything's just perfect. Nope. I'm sorry. That's not how it is. We are going into perfection. We are going into paradise. The Garden of Eden is returning. But the pendulum has to swing back up in that direction. The good news is everything's going to be getting better, progressively better, instead of like it is now where things are getting progressively worse. Make sense? All right, let's see. So we've got the second coming of Christ. The book of Revelation is at the core of Christian eschatology. Depends on who you are, but yes, in general it is. The study of Revelation is usually divided into 4 interpretive methodologies or hermeneutics. In the futurist approach, Revelation is treated mostly as unfulfilled prophecy taking place in some yet undetermined future. That's if you look at time linear and you don't look at time as cyclical, right? All this is doing, yes, it's absolutely predicting the future, but it's retelling the past. Oh, let's see, where was I? In the preterist approach, Revelation is chiefly interpreted as having prophetic fulfillment in the past. See how I'm saying like there's usually both sides to the story can be true? All right, let me skip some of this. Let's get to some of the better stuff here. All right. Well, actually, that was pretty much it, okay? If anybody has a question in the chat, by the way, about anything that we're covering, feel free to type in @JDreamers and ask me, because I glance over some of this stuff because I know it so well, and I kind of make the mistake of assuming other people know it as well. So I just wanted to, be transparent and let you know. Sometimes I skip over things because to me, they're a fact of life. But that's not like that to everyone. So feel free to ask questions if there's a particular facet, whether it be in Buddhism or Hinduism or any of the religions or in history, any of that stuff. Feel free to ask about it. I might not have all the answers, but I do have a reply each and every time. All right, so let's skip over to Messianic Judaism. That's essentially the same thing that we just read. Hinduism. Let's check out Hindu eschatology. Whoa, I didn't mean to click on it. Let's go back. Where are we? Okay. Contemporary. Let me make sure you guys can see that. Okay, cool. Contemporary Hindu eschatology is linked in the Vaishnavite tradition to the figure of Kalki, the 10th and last avatar of Vishnu before the age draws to a close, who will reincarnate as Shiva and simultaneously dissolve and regenerate the universe. Wow, that's everything we just looked up in a nutshell. All of these stories are the same story. They just are drawn by different artists, They're just different perspectives on the exact same story, our never-ending story. It's the Pixar theory applied to all of humanity, basically. So what do we have here? Well, we have the return of a religious figure named Kalki. Same thing as Christ, same thing as Maitreya, same thing as Buddha. The return of these people. The 10th and last avatar of Vishnu. Here's Vishnu right here. You see how he's blue? one of the blue gods there with multiple arms. The multiple arm has a lot to do with, well, it's part of it is a Phanazoid reference, but the other part of it is plasma, because plasma has multiple arms, and we are made in the image of plasma, aka God, aka energy, and that's why we branch out with fingers and arms, and we look like a tree, basically, because all things tend to take that shape, basically. So before the age draws to a close, we have the return of a religious figure, a righteous figure, reincarnated as Shiva. So Shiva, there's three main gods, three main deities in Hinduism. Okay, you have Brahma. Brahma is the creator god, right? That basically was the first, the original. Brahma separated Brahma's self, right? Brahma created. You could look at it like this. It's like Brahma took a piece of himself to paint with, and he painted outside of himself a picture. Brahma looked at the picture and fell in love with it because it's him, as he should. And he jumped into that picture in order to experience the picture he had just drawn. That's Brahma. Which I like Brahma, but in Hinduism, Brahma got a bad rap for doing that for some reason. Let's see here. And then we have Shiva, which is basically the world destroyer. Okay, Shiva is the exact same word as Shua, for those of you who have studied like the Hebrew roots of words and stuff like that. Yeshua or Yahshua, that's Jesus's name, essentially, in Hebrew. It's Yahweh Shua. Shua is the same name as Shiva, which means to save, but it also has a secondary meaning, which I'm going to allow you guys to go look up. I think it's interesting. But yes, Shiva and Shua, same exact word. And then, of course, we've got Vishnu, right? Vishnu is basically the avatar of Brahma as he is inside of the world experiencing his own painting. That makes sense? Shiva is basically the destroyer. Shiva is the one who comes in and is just meditating, aka sleeping, just like Cthulhu is up there or down there, or any of these world destroyers. They're always sleeping until the time comes, as is Shiva, sleeping, waiting until its time has come. Most Hindus believe that the current period of the Kali Yuga, the last of the 4 yuga that make up the current age, that's where we are, basically. Each period has seen successive degeneration in the moral order. Like I talked about, that's the pendulum swinging downward where we are right now. To the point that in the Kali Yuga, quarrel and hypocrisy are the norm. Let's look around and let's give ourselves an honest appraisal. Would you say that quarreling amongst humans and hypocrisy in humanity is normal now? I would say yes. At least for now they are. In Hinduism, time is cyclical, consisting of cycles or kalpas. So every time you make a circle, it's a kalpa. Every time you relive from plasma apocalypse to plasma apocalypse, that's one kalpa, basically. I mean, that's my own interpretation of that. But each kalpa lasts 4.1 to 8.2 billion years. Now, there may be some truth to that particular length of time. But when it comes to people describing time, I take that with a grain of salt. Okay, I look to like the moral of what is being said, basically. Which is one full day or night for Brahma. Remember, we just read in the Bible, it said that to the Lord, one day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like one day. That's pretty much the same thing here in Hinduism. Who in turn will live for 311 trillion, 40 billion years. The cycles of birth, growth, decay, etc. See, all of the time stuff, because I know we live in a fractal verse. And in the fractal verse, time is irrelevant. Okay? Time is something we make up, basically. All time, all things outside of this are all happening instantaneously because it's a dream. It just seems like it's happening in a particular order here within the dream in our experience, right? But you could look at it like you're like a movie, right? Let's say you put in a DVD. All right? So for those of you who are watching way in the future, a DVD is a little disc that has encoded information, and you put it into a box, and that box sends a message to another box, and that box shows you pictures in order, okay? So for those of you way off in the future who don't know what a DVD is, which probably isn't too soon, or right around the corner. Anyway, my point is, sorry, I got wrapped up in my explanation. All right, so look at time like a DVD, okay? You're watching the movie on the screen. So you're experiencing the linear fashion of the reading, of the cyclical reading on that disc of the information, which is really kind of a spiral because it starts in the middle, I believe, and it goes all the way out. That's the movie being played out. But you could just take the disc and it's all there presently. It's all the information, all the experiences that you watch in the movie. They're all there at the exact same time. That's how I see time outside of the movie that we live in, or outside of the dream that we live in. Hope that made some sense and cleared up some stuff for you guys. Oh, I answered somebody, Blickeroni. I'm sorry, I didn't even see that you asked a question. Man, I'm sorry about that. Oh, I don't have the chat. I don't have the other chat pop. I'm sorry, I always look at the wrong chat. I'm going to go back real quick. Blickeroni says, what do you think the lake of fire is? Is it possible that there is some filter during the vacuum event and those that don't make it are cast back into the firmament and burned in a lake? Really good question. Apparently I answered that question. Is that what you said? Okay, cool. I did. All right, good. Let's see. Rue, I am Groot. Hey, Rue. I missed you. I hope you're doing well. J Dreamers, I have read over and over Revelations. So intriguing to me. As have I. You know what? I should probably just break down the book of Revelation one of these Plasma Apocalypse Thursdays. I like to try to skip times in between when I talk about religious stuff because, it's a sensitive deal. So I like to introduce a little bit of religion here and there, like some flavor in the teachings, right? And not just one religion, but all of them, because I like them all. Semyaza says, your inner voice will never guide you wrong. You know it right by the way that it feels. Words well spoken, my friend. All right, let me continue on here. Islam. Let's look at Islam, right? Not the most popular religion here in America, okay? But just as cool, in my opinion. I like Islam, okay? I like Islam as much as I like any of the other religions because I glean from all of them. I respect all of them. To respect means to take a second look at something, right? Instead of seeing it the first way that we first did, we take a second look. We step outside of our own bias, basically, and our own programming that we have. We take a second look at it, a fresh look at it. So I like to take a fresh look at all of the religions, including Islam. And to all of my Islamic people out there who are watching, Assalamu alaikum, which means peace unto you. Or in Hebrew, if you're some of my Jewish friends or Messianic Jews, it would be Ashalom lachem. Same thing. Assalamu alaikum, shalom lachem. Means peace unto you. So that's cool. I like that. Peace unto all of you. Islamic eschatology is documented in the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad regarding the signs of the Day of Judgment. I forgot what you're supposed to say in Islam after you mention like a righteous person's name. I like that they do that though. I can't remember what it is, so forgive me that I'm not doing that right now. The Prophet's sayings on the subject have been traditionally divided into major and minor signs. He spoke about several minor signs of the approach of the Day of Judgment, including Abu Huraira reported that Muhammad's... Oh, that was a cool picture. Do you see that? That's cool looking. I like that. If you survive for a time, you would certainly see people who would have whips in their hands like the tail of an ox. They would get up in the morning under the wrath of God, and they would go into evening with the anger of God. Sounds like the plasma possessed to me. Let's see here. When honesty is lost, then wait for the Day of Judgment. Honesty's pretty much lost these days, right? Let's be honest, okay? The world's in a state of disrepair. It's not... There's a lot of bad happening, a lot of selfishness, you know what I mean? So that means that's good news. That's really good news. I'm glad it's like that. I don't support it, but I support that it's happening. Why? Because it needs to happen in order for it to change, in order for us to stop experiencing such a crappy world and negativity and all this stuff. We live during crucial times, and it is an honor to be a light worker. It is an honor to be a being who is constantly focused on growing and breaking free of these old ways and these old energies and an old mentality and an old mindset, right? It's an honor for me. I hope it's an honor for you too. How will honesty be lost, O messenger of God? When authority is given to those who do not deserve it, then wait for the day of judgment. Come on, man. We can all agree on that. I don't really even need to give any examples at all. All authority in this world, for the most part, is given to people that don't really deserve it. That's my perspective. I think a lot of you probably resonate with that, so just move on here. Let's see, what else do we have? So one guy said, inform me when the day of judgment will be. So Muhammad says, the one who is being asked knows no more than the inquirer. All he's saying is, I don't know when the day of judgment is. I can tell you the signs, but it doesn't happen on this particular exact day, on this year, and I can't tell you when it's going to be. I can tell you that I can read the signs. That's like asking a woman, hey, when are you going to give birth? I don't know, but I know I'm going to give birth. I know that I'm getting bigger and bigger and I'm about to pop. I know that there's a lot of signs that happen, that say the baby's on the way. You know what I mean? Tell me about its indications. Those are the signs. The Prophet Muhammad said that the slave girl gives birth to her mistress and master, and that you would find barefooted, destitute shepherds of goats vying with one another in the construction of magnificent buildings. Before the day of judgment, there will be great liars, so beware of them, right? When the most wicked member of a tribe becomes its ruler, and the most worthless member of a community becomes its leader, and a man is respected through fear of the evil that he might do, and leadership is given to people who are unworthy of it, expect the day of judgment. That stuff's happening right now, and I respect Muhammad. I respect these writings. I respect Islam for sharing this. Because, I mean, it's kind of obvious, right? It's stuff that we have forgotten. These are the teachings of Buddha. These are the teachings of Jesus. Like, this is all ancient knowledge that should be common sense to us. But it's not common whatsoever. It's not even sensed by us. So it's not common sense whatsoever in any manner of the word. It is literally willfully forgotten. Men are willfully ignorant these days. Dennis says, may peace be upon him. Actually, he said at J-Dreamers, may peace be upon him. But thank you. I appreciate that you reminded me. Let's see. Let me just pop in the chat, make sure I didn't miss any comments here. Ted Ozzy says, J-Dreamers, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. May peace be upon him. I like how they say that. I don't feel obligated to say that, you know what I mean? Because it's about the heart of the matter. If I feel like saying that, good. Makes it all that much better. But to just do it out of duty, like every single time or whatever, like, I was playing a video game, and Luigi, may peace be upon him, jumped into the pipe and went down into the underworld where he fought Bowser and rescued the princess, may peace be upon her. You know what I mean? Like, I don't do that all the time, but in certain instances, I think it's pretty cool. Corey L says, J-Dreamers, yes, some scripture would be very interesting. Sounds good to me, because I can easily break down the book of Revelation and all that stuff. I must have read that like at least 40 times. At least. All right, let's continue on here. We're talking about Islamic signs of the end, basically. Regarding the major signs, a companion of the Prophet narrated, once we were sitting together and talking amongst ourselves when the Prophet appeared. He asked us what it was that we were discussing. We said that it was the day of judgment. I'm sorry, excuse me, 1 second. I don't have anything to drink. All right, that's okay. So they're talking about the day of judgment. So just like in Christianity, they call that the day of the Lord. In Islam, it's called the day of judgment, or Judgment Day, which is, where that whole Terminator movie came from. That's Judgment Day. On Judgment Day, the robots come to life. We've talked about this, right? The world is, I don't like to use the word suffers, okay? But it suffers an influx of plasma electromagnetic energy. Therefore, all of the robots, all of the electronics in the world, bing, turn on, by themselves. Okay. And that's where you get Judgment Day and Skynet and all of that stuff. The Skynet is going to be the plasma that comes in like a net, like a spider web, like tentacles, however you want to look at it, and covers our world and turns all of the electronics on, basically, and reanimates the dead and does all kinds of other cool stuff. All right, let's see here. So we're going to read about the major signs in Islam of the end of the world. Once we were sitting together and talking amongst ourselves, the prophet appeared. He asked us what we were talking about. It was the day of judgment. He said, "It will not be called until 10 signs have appeared." Smoke. So there will be the sign of smoke. What smoke is he talking about? Worldwide smoke, which is worldwide mist or worldwide fog, because our world depressurizes and the air instantly expands. Dajjal, which is the Antichrist. So in the same way that you have the return of like an enlightened being, basically, you have the counterpart. You always have balance. There's always a counterpart to that. So you have the Christ figure, the illuminated one, and the Antichrist figure, who is basically the one that looks in selfishly. The other one projects out and shares. The other one takes. You know what I mean? Hope that makes sense. Where was I? Oh, the creature. Ah, yes, the creature. The creature that will wound the people. Let's stop right there. That's a phantazoid, okay? Like, there are different creatures. There may be one massive one that leads all, I don't know. But I am convinced phantazoids, a.k.a. the great beasts of old, a.k.a. the monsters of old, a.k.a. pretty much any type of monstrous creature in history or mythology or our legends, those are real. I call them the phantazoids. I talk a lot about them and go into a lot of detail on my website. So feel free to check out my website and look at the phantazoid section. So the creature that will harm the people or wound the people. Same thing in the book of Revelation. It talks about the locusts of God, the creatures essentially that come out of the abyss, right? And they're led by one main creature, which is the destroyer or Abaddon, right? Or Polyon. There are creatures, there are monsters that will be coming. And don't be afraid, okay? That doesn't mean that that you should be afraid of the monsters. Actually, if you are afraid of the monsters, they're more likely to sense your fear and more likely to come after you. They are probably going to leave people alone who are fearless. They're coming to eradicate the old energy. The old energy is rooted and grounded in fear. Be fearless. Just like in that movie with Will Smith. I forgot what it was called, but him and his son, I forgot his son's name right now, but him and his son were in this movie and they were out in space and then they landed on this planet where there were these monsters. And the monsters literally could not see you anymore the moment you stopped being afraid of them. True story. All right. Let's see here. The creature, the rising of the sun in the west. So the sun is going to switch, okay? If it's even the same sun or point of focus, okay? That's because the energy is going to be reversing and it's going to be going up. So that point of focus that point of light focus, basically, that we call the sun, is going to like go the other way, basically. And this is recorded in history. Like cultures have recorded seeing the sun stop, seeing the sun go the other way. It can do a lot of different things because the sun is not way out there, 99 billions, 99 billions of suns on this wall. I don't know how to say it. But yeah, the sun's not way out there. It's not bigger than the earth. It's not a gigantic ball of flaming fire inside of a vacuum of nothingness spinning in some direction. That's not what it is. At least that's not the way I have found it to be. You can believe what you like to believe, and I support that. I absolutely do, and I honor and respect that. I just want to be sensitive when we talk about people's perspectives and cosmologies and realities and stuff like that. But I have found that the sun is not a sun at all. Okay? It's not a sun as in like the son of Daydreamers or the son of somebody else, right? But it is a point of focus. It is a point of light. That's all it is. That's where the light comes in from the plasma. It meets right there, and then it redistributes downward, and the light comes down, like the two pyramids or whatever. Anyhow, let's keep going. The second coming of Jesus. Well, this is even in Islam. So, I mean, come on. Like, those are two totally opposing belief systems, traditionally. And they're both say Jesus is coming back. So, guess what? Jesus is probably coming back. according to like all of these things we've been reading about. Doesn't have to have the name Jesus. Okay, I've already established that's probably not his actual name. That's a very Americanized version of the actual Hebrew name, which if he was a Hebrew, had a Hebrew name. Makes sense. But like in you could call him Buddha, the enlightened one, the shining one. Probably shining because he's going to be a fantazoid, a bipedal fantazoid, a fractal verse traveler. Okay. So yeah, those are the shining ones. Let's see. We've got the emergence of Gog and Magog, the three sinkings. So Gog and Magog, that is ancient countries, ancient civilizations that come back up. For example, Tartaria, right? A lot of people have started to learn recently that there was an entire kingdom, I'll call it, called Tartaria. And it was on all the maps. But the schools don't teach about it at all. It's like they just erased it from history. So, yes, some of these ancient kingdoms will come back to the light of our mind. We'll remember them. And physically, some of these places will rise back up, like Atlantis rising back up. And three sinkings or cavings of the earth. That's called liquefaction. Okay, the whole entire, what happens is the earth is going to grow. It's always growing. Everything grows, right? So the earth, it makes sense that the earth grows too. It's not just one solid shape and it only gets bigger because of space dust that just collects or whatever. No, the earth is going to grow. It's going to stretch out, which means there will be worldwide earthquakes, which means that all of the land will be shaking back and forth, and the earth is full of water. It's not just solid rock like we think that it is, okay, or magma. Okay, there's a lot of water inside of the earth. When the earth starts to shake, that water starts to rise up to the top, creating mud everywhere, liquefaction. Benjamin Crossland just donated and said, Jesus is the sun, going away, then coming back. Hey, I like that. That's a good point. I really like this. I like the little gift down there. It cracks me up. Thank you so much, Benjamin, for your donation. I really appreciate you, man. All right, let's see here. Oh, so there'll be three massive sinkings. Okay, so that's a part of it. It's called liquefaction. Many things will sink down into the earth. If it's in the mud and it's heavy and it's big, it's probably going to sink down into the earth, right? Unless it's buoyant and it can float in the mud as well. Or if it's on top of bedrock. Okay, some places on the earth have bedrock. So yeah, there'll be a little bit of sinking, but eventually it'll hit bedrock, or the bedrock will prevent it from, people from sinking down too much, or buildings or things like that, right? But a lot of the stuff, I mean, imagine where we are today. We've got skyscrapers and stuff. Where are the ancient skyscrapers? Where are the ancient, like if time is cyclical, then this time with all of our modern technology must have been experienced at some point in the past. Where is it? Where are all of the great monuments, the great large buildings and stuff? The only ones that survived were built on bedrock. They didn't sink. I can absolutely see all of the skyscrapers in New York, in Manhattan, right? Just going into the earth, literally getting sucked into quicksand and disappearing, right? And then once the earth stops shaking, I don't know if you know this about liquefaction, but it creates quicksand. The moment it stops, it hardens. So everything that gets sank down in there is going to basically be crushed and stuck inside of the earth. Those will become the future fossils that our great-grandchildren dig up. Blickaroni is in the chat and says, have you guys ever seen Thundar the Barbarian and Thundercats? They take place in the future. The world will go back to medievalism and barbarism. Magic will return and the chimeras will appear. I couldn't have said it better myself. I absolutely agree with you. Dennis L. says, J-Dreamers, Tartaria is the land of monkeys. Tarzan. Ooh, that's interesting. Blickaroni also says, J-Dreamers, have you seen Thundar the Barbarian? I don't know if I have seen Thundar. I've heard of it. I've definitely seen Thundercats. It's an old post-apocalyptic 80s cartoon. The moon gets shattered. Wow, really? That's definitely a part of it, and that's a part of Islamic belief, too. I think we're going to cover this in a minute. The moon gets shattered, destroys Earth, and the world becomes a dystopian fantasy world. I might have to check that out. If you could put a link in there for me, I would really appreciate it. Well, let's see. You're not a moderator. So let's make you a moderator here. That way you can put a link. Oh, I'm in the wrong chat. No wonder. There we go. Let me just go ahead and hook up Blickaroni with moderator status. There you go. Corey L is also not a moderator. Let me give out some moderators real quick. Sorry about that. If you need to be a moderator and you basically have the big leaf or higher, let me know. Let's see here. All right, I'll come back to that. Oh, hey, thanks. I appreciate it. Good on you. Thank you for posting that in the chat. All right, let's move on. Let's see here. So we've got the 3 sinkings, etc. But yeah, the moon breaking is actually one of the main beliefs in Islam. That's one of the signs that the moon will break in half. And that people here in the modern day will look up, see the moon break, and they won't believe it. They're going to explain it away somehow instead of just acknowledging the moon just broke in half. What the hell's going on? The moon breaks. That is in so much of our collective subconscious that it just pours right out into the fantasy books, into the movies, into television shows. There's countless examples of the moon breaking. Why would they do that? Why wouldn't they have countless examples of like the moon growing in size so that it's 5 times bigger than Earth? I mean, that's just as random as the moon breaking. Why is that one prevalent? The moon breaking is prevalent in our collective subconscious, not the moon pulsating or, doing anything else. It breaks because the moon is the sister world out there. That is the top ice dome that they have called their sky. And we are just looking at the other side of it. Actually, what we're really seeing is a projection of our sister world. That's not the physical, actual moon. That's a plasma projection of the other world across from us, our sister world that we call the moon. And yes, the moon is hollow because our dome is hollow. Our snow globe is hollow. And when they look at us, they see their moon. They don't see all of our world or anything like that. They see the roof of our world, and that's it. All right, just want to make that really clear because it's actually really important. All right, Judaism. Let's see. Jewish eschatology is concerned with the events that will happen in the end of days according to the Hebrew Bible and Jewish thought. I just wanted to go, so I'm going to skim through this because I have a feeling it's going to be a lot of like what we've already read here. The end of days. Okay, so in Judaism, it's called the end of days, a phrase that appears several times in the Tanakh. Tanakh, just so you guys know what this is, that's basically the Old Testament, and it's actually an acronym. It stands for Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Old Testament, the Navim, which means prophets. Remember I was telling you about, like, I was breaking down the movie Avatar, and there were the Navi. Well, the word Naviim, or Navim, means prophets, right? So the book of the prophets, and then the Ketuvim, which means the writings. Let's see. Judaism addresses the end times in the book of Daniel and numerous other prophetic passages in the Hebrew scriptures and also in the Talmud, particularly tractate Avodah Zarah. I'm unfamiliar with that particular one. Sorry about that. Now let's check out Zoroastrianism, which is basically where all of these other religions sort of got their start, according to my research. Okay, let's check out Zoroastrianism. All right, let's see. So the Zoroastrian doctrine of a final renovation of the universe when evil will be destroyed and everything else will be in perfect unity with God, or Ahura Mazda. Let me take a quick time out. In Zoroastrianism, their main god is called Ahura Mazda. Separate those two words. Ahura, or Acura, Mazda. 2 car companies that have a very similar logo of the bird in the sun in the background. You see what I'm saying? It's all the same story. It's all cyclical. We pay homage to all of those truths throughout and across all of our pop culture. Yes, Ahura Mazda. Ahura Mazda. Let's see. Let me just double check the chat. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, super missing stuff. All right. Blickaroni says, in Cowboy Bebop, the moon breaks after the activation of hyperspeed astral gates. After Earth is destroyed, humanity colonizes red-skied Mars. Hey, Blickaroni, you're on top of it, man. Dennis L. says, J-Dreamers, we used to have 3 moons before. Moon is an ark, or a ship. Other 2 arks were destroyed in the war. It's all Slavic, Aryan, Vedas. Dennis, if you could hook me up with a link so that I could check that out, I would love to learn more about it. Let's see. Tony Peterson, new member. Welcome, Tony, by the way. Says, J Dreamers. Ooh, pick me, pick me. Okay, so I just picked you. Corey L says, J Dreamers, NASA's picture of the moon's opposite side is ridiculous. That's because they don't have a picture of the opposite side. Okay? In my humble opinion, we see one side of the moon for a particular very simple reason. Because you can only see one side of the moon because there is only one side of the moon. I mean, there's probably an other side to it, but that projection that comes to us, that's just an image of our sister world's dome. That's all that is. Hey, did I get a sticker? Oh, Britt! Britt sent me a sticker. Thanks, Britt. A little thank you, cute little, what is that, like a fox? I like that a lot. Thank you very much, Britt. Hey, thanks for all the donations and support. Thanks for becoming members and stuff. This is just all different ways that you guys can support what I do. And this is my job. This is how I do my work right now. I'm going to be honest with you. I am looking for a part-time job right now. It's because times are a little tight. So don't worry. I'm going to try to make it. You know what? I'm not going to try anything. I know it's going to work out so that I can continue doing what I'm doing. But money's a little tight, so I am kind of looking for a part-time job. So if you know of anything in my area, feel free to reach out to me and let me know. But I'm kind of picky about like the work that I'll do after all of this. Like it's got to be something cool, basically. But enough about me. All right, let's keep reading. Thanks again, Britt. Appreciate you. All right. I know that was weird. I don't know why I just winked at the camera like that. I'm just being weird. All right, so we're talking about Zoroastrianism here. Can you guys see that? All right, cool. All right, so evil will be destroyed. Everything else will be in perfect unity with Ahura Mazda. The doctrinal premises are 1. Good will eventually prevail over evil. Yes, I agree with that. I love that. However, I'm also honest about that. Good will always prevail over evil, and then evil will always prevail over good. They take turns. The good news is you live in a world where evil has prevailed, which means the only thing that can come next is good prevailing. So have hope. It's right around the corner. Don't give up. Number 2, creation was initially perfectly good, but was subsequently corrupted by evil. That's the nature of the world. It's the cyclical nature of our world, right? And a lot of it has to do with our particular world having a sort of snow globe structure on the top, right? And what happens is once that structure is sealed off, all of that magic, all of that energy, all of the electromagnetics that keep this place alive and fresh and connected and have a mentality of oneness with one another because we're all pretty much kind of psychic and we can feel one another. We're connected intimately. It starts to dissipate because all of that gets cut off, right? It gets cut off and it gets released and it's just a part of the cycles. That's all it is, right? It's like a teeter-totter. Number 3, the world will ultimately be restored to the perfection it had at the time of creation. Absolutely. That's the pendulum swinging back the other way. Number 4, the salvation for the individual depended upon the sum of that person's thoughts. Let's highlight this. Thoughts, words, and deeds. And there could be no intervention, whether compassionate or capricious, by any divine being to alter this. I really like this. I really like this a lot, so I'm going to repeat it. The salvation of the individual. Now, we're talking about the end of the world. So, being saved from the end of the world. Okay, that's salvation in context here as to what we're reading. The salvation for the individual depended upon the sum, that means like the collection of everything, of that person's thoughts, words, and deeds. Thoughts, boom, mind, right? Words, those things that come from your thoughts that resonate and are invisible representations of your true essence. And of course, deeds, which are your actions. Rue, I am Groot just gave me $5 and said, if you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Thank you, Jay, and everyone. You're such a sweetheart, Rue. Man, I really like you. You're a great person. I think me and Jenny are constantly saying, like, Rue is just one of the coolest members of the Good Vibe Tribe. She's one of the founding members, I would definitely say. Thank you so much, Rue. I super appreciate that. All right, let's finish this up here. Thoughts, words, and deeds. That's why if I see someone in the chat and they say something, a lot of times my initial response is, hey, that was a word well spoken. Because I believe in a word well spoken, a thought well thought, and a thought well thought for me is a thought that is selfless. It's completely loving. It is completely caring about somebody else, or completely caring about myself if it's about me, right? But yes, that's our mind. That's also in the Bible. That is the mark of God. Before God has all of his phantazoids basically go around stinging everybody and tormenting them, he has to mark them. There are people walking around with markers right now that say, I'm good. You don't have to sting me. You don't have to kill me. You don't have to do anything, right? They don't need to be taken out of this world. They can be left here because they represent the coming energy, the new age, the new world. They're already citizens of it. They're just in the wrong place right now. Not really in the wrong place. We need to be here. Many of us need to be here to be the sparks in the dark. We need to be the lights of the world so that we can start getting things prepared for what's coming, which is why I make these videos. All right, let's see here. What else do we have? Oh, and there could be no intervention, whether compassionate or capricious, by any divine being to alter this. What this means is that those divine beings, gods, angels, whatever you want to call them, they're not allowed to force you to be good or bad. That's up to you. They're not allowed to force you to be loving and selfless or hateful and selfish. That's our decision. That's the decision that's been left to us. And I'm thankful. I think that's a beautiful thing. I choose love. Thus, each human bears the responsibility for the fate of his own soul and simultaneously shares in responsibility of the fate of the world. That's pretty crucial because a lot of people today don't feel like they affect the world whatsoever. Well, according to one of the major religions of history, it says each human bears the responsibility for the fate of his own soul and simultaneously shares in the responsibility for the fate of the world. We are all a part of it. Our energy collectively is what determines when the world comes to an end or when the world needs to be reset and made new again, right? We are all collectively a piece of that, okay? Your life is important. Your energy is important. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise, okay? You're no less important or powerful or amazing or beautiful than anyone else on this planet. Analogies in science and philosophies. We're going to skim through this because then we're going to wrap things up. I got to go. All right, future studies and transhumanism. Let's see, I'm just going to skim through this. Life cycle of the sun. All right, so this is just talking about how the sun is going to turn into a red giant and it's going to inundate the world with this red fire, which is just plasma. This is just academia's way of talking about the plasma apocalypse. All right, that's pretty much it. We're not going to go over any of that other stuff right now. Does anybody in the chat have any questions over anything that we have covered? Let's see. Let me pop that chat back up here. All right, let's go back to the top. We covered a lot of stuff. We were talking about eschatology, the study of the end times, the last days. The reason I'm doing this video is because there's a lot of people out there that don't want any part of it, don't believe it, don't even believe it can happen. They scoff at it. They laugh at it. They think it's ridiculous. However, if you look at history, it is established. Every major religion in the world, even academia itself, like everything points to this event is going to happen. Hey, Trash Panda Love, I did see your donation. Trash Panda Love just donated $15. Wow, thank you. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. Buddha. That was a quote by Trash Panda Love. I'm going to read it one more time. It says, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. That was said by Buddha. That was a great quote for us to end everything on. I really appreciate it, Trash Panda. I do want to give a couple shout outs and say thank you to everybody who has donated here. So let me just go back to my little deal here. Where is it? Okay. Let's start at the top. New member, Jordan Truitt. Welcome to the Good Vibe Tribe. Tiffany Lee donated and said, Thursdays are my favorite. Thanks for all you do, J Dreamers. I love what I do, and you're very welcome. I really, honestly, really love doing this. David Arango says, send me good vibes and sent a donation. Thank you, David. I appreciate you, man, and good vibes right back to you. Benjamin Crossland donated and said, Jesus is the sun, S-U-N, going away and then coming back. He's talking about how the sun disappears during the plasma apocalypse. Britt sent me a beautiful and very cute sticker saying thank you, and you're very welcome, Britt. Rue I Am Groot sent a donation and says, if you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Thank you, Jay and everyone. What is that from, Rue? I can't remember. If you want to view paradise, simply look around. Oh, that's from Pure Imagination. Boom. Right? If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Yep, that's totally it. All right. Good one, Rue. We're on the same page. And finally, Trash Panda Love made a donation and says, the mind is everything, what you think you become. Oh, and Stargazer also made a donation, $9.99. Thank you. Wow. You guys are filling up my gas tank and really helping me out with a lot of stuff at my house. I super appreciate it. I really do. Stargazer says, we are here in the end times, not to fear, but to embrace it. Love and enjoy the journey we are on. We are all on. Thanks, Jay. Stargazer, that was well said. A word well said. A word well spoken. I appreciate you guys. Hey, I'm going to go ahead and get things wrapped up here. Go ahead and stick around for the credits. We're going to rock out to some good vibe music. And I'll see you guys next week in the Truth and Movies segment. And I'll make a post in the community section about that as well. Until next time, I'm Jay Dreamers saying good vibes and good vibe. I can't do it. Why do I always mess that up? Hold on. It's because I'm trying to figure out where the credits button is, because it's weird when I'm like, good vibes and goodbye. Let's see. Where did I put that? Oh, yeah, I have to click on it right there. That's just weird, right? So maybe I should just be a little more prepared. I'm Jay Dreamers saying good vibes, truly, and goodbye.